myself out.
I am afraid of...
I'm terrified and paralyzed by...
I am deathly afraid of...
Welcome to the Sum of All Fears podcast with your host, me, Ryan Perrio. Hello and welcome to the Sum of All Fears podcast. I'm your host, Ryan Perrio. This week, my guest is comedian Hugo Gonzalez. Hugo is a relative newcomer here in the Dallas-Fort Worth comedy scene. He mainly works in Fort Worth as far as comedy goes. He has just started like in October of last year, and so he's getting close to his 1 year in. And in this episode, we talk about comedy, co-parenting a teenage girl, and then we get into his fear of rejection. It was a real fun conversation. This was recorded live at Smokestack 1948 over in Fort Worth. It's a fantastic bar. We recorded this in their cocktail lounge, which wasn't open on Tuesday night, but the ownership graciously allowed us access to actually record in a couple of podcasts, mine as well as an episode of Foolish House, which I was on with Hugo. So let's get into the interview right now with Hugo Gonzalez. All right, my guest this week is comedian Hugo Gonzalez. Hugo is a comic and he also has his own podcast. So go ahead and tell people what your podcast is called because I didn't do research.
Well, first of all, thank you, Ryan. My podcast is Foolish House, the Foolish House podcast, which you will be featured on. And I'm very excited about that.
Yeah, we'll be.
Regardless of your non-research.
Well, I keep hearing it, and then it's like it goes right out because I try to keep a lot of the comedy stuff like cleansed out of my mind just so I can have my own. Like I need to have my own thoughts. I don't want to have everybody else's thoughts because then I feel like I'll end up having an idea of like, oh, incest porn like that, which is your latest opus magnum.
Yeah, man. Thank you. I appreciate that. And honestly, I don't blame you, man. Everybody has like, if I had to listen to every one of my friends' podcasts, like I would do nothing with my day.
It's a lot of friends. That's a very bold claim.
It's just one friend. He's got like 50 different podcasts.
I know that friend. So yeah. So how long have you been doing stand-up now, Hugo?
I actually started Halloween of last year.
Okay.
Yeah, I went. I was dressed as Alex DeLarge from A Clockwork Orange.
Okay.
And my friend, you might know him, Tyler Wynn.
Mm-hmm.
He been doing the Grandma's open mic, and I saw it posted, and I honestly had no idea how many open mics were available in Fort Worth. It'd been something I've been wanting to do forever. I just gone through a breakup, and I needed to get my mind off of something, so why not do something that I wanted to do for all my life?
Well, welcome to the stand-up thing, and
Thank you.
It becomes an obsession.
It is. It's very much an obsession.
It is your emotional gym to get over your ex. Like it is the emotional.
Yeah.
If some exes go like physically go to the gym to look hot again and stuff. Like I want to show her what they're missing out on.
Yeah. See, I was doing that initially. I was working out all the time, running so fucking much, and this is just so much more appealing. This is so much more appealing to me.
Okay, so who are some of your comedy like people that you look up to, like as far as like major stand-ups that I would say kind of maybe inspire what you do on stage? Because you seem kind of like a one-liner-ish, almost kind of. You and Jon Berry, who is also your co-host on Foolish House, kind of are the new one-liner gang.
Oh, he's a one-liner king for sure. I love one-liners, but I do try to break away from it at times. Mitch Hedberg obviously was like the legend of one-liners. Like he was the king. So that was a lot of what I got my stuff from. But I also love really absurd, like just silly ass comedy. I can honestly, I have a lot of appreciation for people like Dimitri Martin that can just make like the silliest jokes, and they don't have to be dirty, which sounds crazy because a lot of my jokes are about pussies. And I'm sorry, I'm not breaking your format. No. Can I say pussy?
Yeah, you're
okay.
I would have told you if this is
yeah, I got a bunch of pussy jokes, I got a bunch of dick jokes, and that's,
But I mean, you're still in the finding yourself period. So I would say like the first year in, my advice is just to learn to love what you're doing and to not have any expectations of paying off like comedy clubs. Like, oh my God, have you seen this Hugo Gonzalez kid? It doesn't work that way. You just kind of learn about yourself because you start to write, and then you'll have to learn how to write even more to try to get past, I would say, like the safety net of your defenses, because you'll have some emotional defenses.
Mm-hmm.
Like, no matter how embarrassing a situation is, there's a fight or flight mechanism to try to make yourself somehow look decent in that situation.
Yeah.
And at some point you'll have to look at it honestly. Like, as a writer, you'll get to the point where you start looking at things with an emotional honesty of because you're also, I'm assuming you've learned things about yourself
through comedy,
through this process.
Absolutely, yes.
Like that you may have been aware they were there, but you've kind of, I guess, admitted to yourself, yeah, I am that person.
Yeah.
Like, because you'll always be like, I wouldn't ghost you. No. But then you're like, yeah, I did kind of just ghost somebody, to put it in a light terms. Like, but there are just moments like that where you will you'll learn about yourself, and you can put yourself in a situation without actually being in it.
Mm-hmm. You're absolutely 100% correct. I kind of knew a lot of. Well, I consider myself a pretty self-aware guy,
mm-hmm.
and I would say that a lot of my comedy, like I try to not pull any punches as far as like protecting my ego, because I do a lot of self-deprecating stuff. But in like the process of writing these things, I do realize that I've kind of been lying to myself about how much I actually hold on to my values, just like how virtuous I actually am, and I do sometimes like end up shitting the bed on things that I know are wrong, and I purposely. We were just talking about a situation I'm in where somebody's interested in me and they have a long-term relationship, and I know that it's wrong, but I'm still talking to them.
Yeah, and it's one of those things also where, again, you're going through a breakup and stuff, and you don't know. I don't know what the status of their long-term relationship is. Like, are they say, it's like, it's obviously it's never been stronger because she's talking to you. Like, it's never been better. But you just don't know, because, I mean, the longest thing I've been in is been like these last 3 or so years that I was with the person I was. And, I have some emotional maturity, but I don't have a lot of awareness. And so I take for granted certain situations and how people feel, and I don't dare to be better because I'm like, nobody's told me that I need to be, and so I've just kind of I status quo'd the girl away, and so I don't, and I realize that now, but hindsight being 2020, it just makes you wish that you could. Because you do still care for the person. You just wish you could have been better for them and not let it get to where you're now having to you're having to repeat the 5th grade, to put it in elementary school terms.
Yeah, I feel like in those situations, all you can do is do your best to keep it in mind for the next one.
Mm-hmm. So going back to comedy, what has been the highlight since you haven't gotten to your year anniversary yet? We're getting close to it, but what has been like the highlight of your comedy career so far?
Actually, the highlight, it's not that impressive, but I mean, I've been lucky enough that I've had people put me on. Like I did a show at Hyenas that was fucking wonderful. Ian Mack, who hosts the open mic we're at tonight at Smokestack, he referred me to, Diego, Texas Chuckle. And yeah, I got to do 10 minutes at Hyenas, and it was honestly like amazing. I was so honored to do that. Like it was a big deal for me, but that was not what I would consider my greatest accomplishment. My greatest one is Zach Sprung has this show. You might know about it. It's in Ennis. It's at this place called the Game Room. It's a pool hall. Ennis, Texas. It's a small little town. I'd never even heard of it until I was asked to do a show here. So I go out to this place, and there's only 4 comics. So we are all given as much time as we want. Mm-hmm. So I ended up doing a little over 20 minutes of material, and the crowd was less than 15 people, but they were all focused. They were all zoned in, and they were all laughing, and they were all having a great time. Mm-hmm. And I'd never felt better.
Well, that's good.
That was absolutely like the peak for me. And I think I'm going to remember that moment for the rest of my life.
And one thing I will say about bar shows is that sometimes in bar shows, your goal is not to get the room to laugh. Sometimes it's just to get everyone's attention.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I've done enough bar shows to know that already.
Yeah. Yeah. But sometimes silent attention is as good, if not better than, just actually getting,
uproarious laughter.
Well, not just uproarious, but just like a couple people laugh, because some people will be like, oh, I got that person to laugh. But if everybody else is talking, like there's no more defeating feeling as a stand-up comic than when you're doing a show at a venue and all you hear is everybody else's conversation. I just think it just kind of defeats you, and it takes you back to when you're in trouble with your parents, even though you didn't do anything wrong and you're trying to plead your case. And it doesn't matter what you say; they just basically overrule you, and it's just the defeated feeling.
Yeah, that feeling of like your opinion doesn't matter.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
and you'll get, as you develop into this, you'll get a stronger and stronger immunity to it, to where you're not like driving home and thinking about it all the way home, like, oh my God, because. For some people when they're starting out, like there is a couple other new comics that I've watched like completely just, have a moment where they're just like really upset and they're taking it out on their significant other that came and watched them and stuff. And I just explained, like, I know how that feels. I know that it feels like it's a big deal, but it's just an open mic.
Yeah.
I know that you're like 10 mics into this, but it's not something that you need to just like lose a relationship over just because you felt like they talked through your set or threw you off. There's always next week. In fact, there's open mics Monday through Friday if you want to try it somewhere else to get to kind of absolve yourself of this one to go to the next one.
Yeah, and that's honestly an important lesson that I learned a few months ago, really, because I was doing awful for a while there. There was I want to say nearly a 2-month period where I just kept bombing over and over again. And I kind of stepped back and realized that it's because I kept letting it get to me to the point where I was just going through the motions during my sets. And for me to expect anything to come from that, that was on me.
Yeah. And that's another thing you'll have to learn too, is how to, when you're doing, because at some point you're going to have to build, and I've told my ex this, who also does stand up, we still talk, and she still asks for advice. I'm like, you still have to build your 5 minutes. You can't just do a thing here or there. At some point, if you're wanting to do this seriously, you've got to build a solid 5 minutes, and then do that solid 5 minutes on demo, and then slowly take one piece out of that 5 minutes, sub something else in. And then if that works, then now you've got that plus your 5 minutes, and then you just keep taking one piece out, another piece in, and Tetrising your way to 10. Then once you have 10, do the same thing to Tetris your way to 15, and then to 20. And then that's when you can start looking at basically being opening acts at comedy clubs, or, running, doing a bar show and doing extended time. But you have to have a tight bulletproof 5 that will hang with my 5, Diego's 5. It's all, you've got it. Your best 5 should be on par with your peers as far as their 5 minutes. as a foundation, and then you just build from there. And then once you have a surplus, so say you've worked your way up to 20 minutes, they only want you to do 10. Now you get to pick and choose out of that 20. What do you want to do? Okay, let's do this one. Let's do this over here, and you can do it in different orders. That's when it gets really fun, is after you build that 5 or 10, and you're only doing, you're doing less than what you have, and now all of a sudden you get to pull out. Oh, let's, that joke's, what would go well with that joke is this joke over here that I was doing, a year ago. Boom, and you just start, and then you start just playing with blocks.
That's you're really giving me some golden nuggets, man. And I hope that we can talk more beyond this podcast, because you've been doing this for a while, haven't you?
Yes, I've been doing it about 16 years. Come the end of the next month. But I mean, it's just, again, it's something. If you don't love it, you're not going to be in it this long, and enjoy the results you have. You'll be at 16 years and like, why am I not, getting, TV work or anything like that? And they're just different. There's different routes to this. Everybody thinks that we're all going for the same things. And I'm like, I don't know if they are. I was like, at the beginning, yeah, sure, I'd love to be on Netflix, Comedy Central, wherever. But as I've progressed through it, it's become, tenable goals of, I want to record an album. I want to, I want to be able to watch my videos of my set without cringing, and just going through those kinds of growth rather than just being, fame isn't just one piece of this, that it's potential.
Yeah, I'm not expecting fame out of this. I'm not even thinking on like specials or anything like this. It's just, since I was a kid, making people laugh has been like the best thing for me. Like I was always a class clown. Yeah, it's just, it's a feeling that I can't, I can't achieve it with anything else. I could probably, I don't know, make $1 million and it wouldn't feel the same as, making a whole fucking crowd laugh at my stupid jokes.
Yeah. It's the ultimate control.
Yeah.
It's the ultimate, because most people are afraid to get up there, and the fact that you're conquering that fear, not only that, you're getting a room full of people to do what you want. You're getting the response you want.
Yeah.
Is the ultimate in just confidence.
Yeah, I'm still getting there. I'm still working my way up there, but like seeing people that have like been doing this while, like seeing you control a room, like that's some fucking, it's like watching the fucking Mona Lisa be painted or some shit. And I'm not trying to kiss your ass here, but like I'm just saying, like seeing people that have been doing this for a while, like it like I'm amazed by it still.
Yeah, and that's what even 16 years in, like I can watch someone like Ben Creed, who's been doing it for 30 plus years, and he's been doing it twice as long as I have. He was 16 years in when I first started. Or even more. And, just to hear his stories and to see, that he still loves to do like the Hyenas Thursday shows. When, most people, at 40 years in the stand up are just like, I don't know. You're just finding new avenues and just realizing that it just never ends.
I really love to hear that, because I do have this thing where I'll have other comics tell me, like they'll see me like encouraging, like laughing at other people's stuff, even if I've heard it before, and just because I genuinely like their jokes and want to be supportive and attentive, people keep telling me that I'm going to get over it, that I'm just like in a honeymoon period, and I don't want to feel like that.
Well, I would say it can be. Yeah. I mean, there's a limit to how much you can support before you're actually doing harm rather than support, because at some point, if you're supporting, make sure what you support is material you like.
Yeah.
And also if there's someone you care about, like Jon or or somebody else.
I don't care about Jon. Okay, fuck that guy.
Yeah, but any comics that you're really good friends with, that you're seeing maybe does a joke that's not going well, or you have some feedback, say, hey, I noticed that joke's not. And if you have suggestions and say, what have you thought about trying it this way or something like that, but don't the worst thing unsolicited is like the unsolicited, like, hey, try this.
Oh yeah, I don't do that at all.
Because I rarely critique people's writing because it's a very personal attack. It's for a comic that's like, it's like walking up to someone's painting and picking up a brush and painting your own thing into their art, and it's like you wouldn't do that, and that's why I try to tell people is like I understand and appreciate that you guys have ideas, but let's talk. A lot
better with a happy little bush right here.
Yeah, just talk about it a little bit.
Yeah.
Let's talk and get an open dialogue to see if they even want feedback, or if they're like just be like, I think that's a great idea. What other ways have you thought of doing it? Because sometimes it's hard to see only the way that you see the world. And there's a couple, it takes time to write and to try to write from a different angle. If somebody's writing, like I was talking with, my ex, because I still bounce ideas off of her because she listens to a lot of comedy and has ears and stuff. And I'm like, when we always talk about these live, laugh, love signs. But it's always from the vantage point of you don't need them, or why do you have them? It's never for why you do need them. Like, for me, I was looking at it as like, maybe you do need it. Maybe, I don't know if you guys have lived with anybody and come home from a hard day of work to a kitchen full of dirty dishes and still and then you're like sitting there like, these sons of bitches have been, like, you hear them watching TV and having a great time, and you're like, you're just wanting to go over there and hit them over the head with the cast iron skillet and bury them in the backyard. But then you look up and like, live, laugh, love. Okay, yeah, you're right. It's like just kind of just helps you wind down just a little bit before you have to fucking murder your spouse or kids or. Which, speaking of, you are a dad. Mm-hmm. How old is your daughter?
She just turned 14, man. She just turned 14 July 16th.
And how old are you?
I'm 35.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll be 36 in October.
Well, congratulations on that. What are you, a full-time parent, or you
we co-parent, so I have my daughter every other week, except for during the summers I'll have her all of June, and her mom has her all of July. I'm pretty involved as a father.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I was curious when you say co-parenting, what that feels like. Like, it's like, that's got to be kind of, does that mess up your social life, just having like, like, okay, I can't do this whole week because I feel like when you're dating, like, you want to get more frequent, to see them more frequently. Yeah. Like, at some point, like, okay, we've been on 2 dates, it's gone really well. Like, dates 3, 4, and 5, you want to kind of be like less than once every 2 weeks or something. And
it depends, but yeah, basically, if I am dating somebody and we're doing it consistently, then there's going to be like a week where we're not seeing each other.
Mm-hmm.
But also, my ex and I have gotten to the point where we can ask each other for, a little bit of help. So if it's something really like important, then I can ask, will you watch her for the night? So there's a lot of flexibility there. Mm-hmm. Also, we live a couple of streets away from each other.
Well, that's also really helpful. I would think
like this is like I really lucked out with this ex of mine. Like initially it was very hard, but then we both started kind of doing therapy at the same time and learned to set up boundaries and respect each other, and it's gotten so much better. But yeah, regardless of that, yes, it makes dating a lot harder. I have had people just flat out ghost after they find out that I am a father.
Wow. I thought maybe they ghosted, like, maybe like you, like, once you were like, hey, I can't, my daughter needs me this weekend, I'm sorry, I can't.
That actually did happen once.
Okay. See, that to me seems more logical. It's like because they'll want that. I don't understand it myself, because I'll be like, my ex has a daughter who's 13, and so I was like, you know what? Whenever she would say, hey, I feel like I should spend time with my daughter, you kind of, as a parent, you see signs of when your daughter's like maybe missing you or doesn't, you don't want to leave them because they feel, either you can feel like they're feeling neglected or something like that, or you just want to cheer them up. And I'm always like, hey, no problem.
I will say
I am psychopathically self-reliant, and so I am able to handle. I can handle being alone, and so it's like, but I also see those other sides of so it's going to be every time. Just that's how it works. That's how dating with someone with kids works. You are in the backseat.
They're first, like, no matter what. It just has to be that. Like, I will say it's gotten a lot easier now that she's a teenager. This is what I was going to say, like, with your ex and her 13-year-old.
Mm-hmm.
Teenagers don't give a fuck. Like my daughter would honestly be fine if I left her home alone, like, the entire time that, she's...
But it's not the first time you leave them home alone. The first time you leave them home alone, they're going to mind their P's and Q's.
Yeah.
It's the third or fourth time when they feel a little cocky about, I've cooked something before last time, and then they get hooked into a phone call or watching TV, and all of a sudden the kitchen's on fire. And it's like, it's never the first time. It's once they feel just a little comfortable that they let their guard down. Just like driving, you let your guard down just one time. You talk to your friends, you look at your friend's phone while you're going through an intersection, and boom, and you have to learn that. You have to learn. There's just little lessons kids learn because you do get even in comedy. You'll have that false confidence. I've done this same set hundreds of times. There's no way this thing could go bad at this show, at this opportunity, and it just falls flat. And you're just like, well, just like
egg on my face. Yeah.
Well, it's usually like, this in your mind. This is an opportunity to work for comedy. This is a chance for me to get regular weekends at a club, and here I am just absolutely shitting this 5-minute set, and I'll never, and it leaves you to question, like, will I ever be anything more than this? And I had to be okay with that, because what I learned is going up with expectations is the worst thing you can have, because as soon as they're not met, that's all you think about on stage. You don't have any chance to recover. Like, there are ways to recover if you're not doing well, and to be okay, and just to. But as soon as you start to tighten up because you feel let down, and now, you still haven't gotten to light, and you feel defeated, and you can't emotionally bring yourself to be not even just positive, but just okay. Everybody can sense it, because you're basically getting the energy back that you're putting out. Yeah. So whatever you put out there, the audience is going to reflect. So if you're scared, then the audience is going to be scared to laugh, because they don't know if is he okay? What's going on? Like, it's amazing how much crowd think there is, and how simple some of the crowd stuff actually is in stand up.
And that's what I was saying earlier with a little period in my comedy career that I was just low energy and just, like, going through the motions. I had to realize that the crowd was picking up on my energy, and I had nobody to blame for myself for not having good sets. It wasn't until, like, I recognized that and started making myself, like, bring the energy and, like, really focus on the crowd and their reactions that things started going a little better.
Yeah. And so, as a parent, like, has your daughter, like, seen any of your stand-up?
She hears some of my jokes. I'm not going to lie. I am a bad parent, so she's heard some of my terrible jokes. I actually had some jokes about her that I was doing for a little bit, and I stopped doing them. But she approved of them at the time. They just weren't getting a whole bunch of laughter or anything.
Well, that's great. I see somebody is, like, popped in here.
No, they haven't.
Oh.
They're gone now. Sorry.
Okay. Was Sean Santos supposed to be on your podcast?
No, absolutely not. I think people are just being a little Snoopy Snellies. That's not a thing.
Yeah, but we can edit that part out if I need to.
No, that's funny.
But yeah, like, as a parent, like, it's got to be weird, because what is your daughter's feedback on your material?
She doesn't think I'm funny. She does not think I'm funny. She thinks I'm stupid, but I mean, she's respectful about it. She's a teenage girl.
She's respectful about calling you stupid.
Yeah, yeah. She doesn't actually call me stupid. That's like me paraphrasing.
Okay.
That's me paraphrasing. No.
Dad,
but,
you were just not that bright.
She'll be like, "That's not. I don't like that one. I don't like that one. No, that one's not good. Why can't you be more like this comic? Why can't you be more like this guy?"
I would have her listen to some of the stuff that you're okay with her listening to, and then
She's heard
ask
some of the terrible stuff.
Yeah, but I mean, just since she knows you,
yeah,
it would be it's very insightful to see how far off what real life dad Hugo is versus on stage comic Hugo.
Yeah,
because you want to be closer to that, to where you don't have to feel like you have to bring some sort of fake energy or facade to the show, that you are this person. It may be exaggerated a little bit, but for the most part, you want to be who everybody perceives you as.
Yeah. I've actually I've considered bringing her to shows like something like Funky Picnic, where they allow kids, but I don't know. They're still like, I'm still kind of on the fence, and she's asked me to come to a show. I'm just a little on the fence about it.
So is she dating since she's 14? Has she started to notice?
She has started
people?
dating, yes. And it's like, I never wanted to be that dad. I've always wanted to be like accepting and like just as close to her as I could be. I didn't know how I was going to be, like what kind of father I was going to be until like it fucking fell in my lap, because it literally did. Like I met her mother in college, and within 2 weeks I got her pregnant. Yeah. So it's a wonder that it didn't work out, but so like more than anything, I want her to know that I support her and I'm there. And so I didn't want to be one of those dads that was like, you're my precious flower, no one could touch you. I don't want to be one of those things.
But I mean, I think...
But it still fucks with me. It does.
But I mean, you can only communicate as clear as you possibly can, and just be okay with bringing up the conversation. I think the worst thing you can do as a parent is to just shelve it and say, let's not talk about it.
Oh yeah, no, I've always open conversations, no matter how uncomfortable it is for me, which it has gotten uncomfortable. She actually was dating somebody for a few months. It was her first real boyfriend last year, the beginning of this year, and that was a whole thing in itself. She was in 8th grade dating a freshman.
Okay.
That she met in band. Yeah, it's not too bad. But she met this guy in band. She's a saxophone player, and he's a fellow saxophone player.
Okay.
This guy, his mother was my ex-wife's former boss, and she was such a bitch that my ex-wife quit her job just to get away from her. And I heard so much about how awful this woman was. So then when we found out that our daughter was dating her son, it was like, whoa, that's, small, fucked up, twisted world. And then
interesting Christmas, if I got that far.
So our daughter ended up being a little sneaky, lying to us about going to the movies with her friends. She actually went to meet up with this guy, have a movie date with this guy. So they went to the movies. And
now, on whose watch was this? Was this a week you had her, or was that a week that your ex had her?
I had her.
Okay.
But we communicate. So I was like, hey, she wants to go to the movies with her friends. And I dropped her off. Her friends were there. They all ran up and, ha ha ha, we're teenagers. Let's go. But she didn't tell me that her boyfriend was going to be there, and that's really, So she did have friends with her, but it was really just.
But she set it up. Wanting to see, she chose you to set it up with, not mom.
Oh man,
that's what I'm wondering.
Her mom lets her get away with so much more than I do.
Okay, so
her mom's the one that she's calling like an idiot, and her mom's the one getting talked to like that, not me. Well, I grew up a Hispanic household. I can.
I will say that also there's a different element as far as it's two I would say with two women, I feel like there's a you don't know. It would be like if you had a son, you might have there may be more friction. The tides may turn your way because I think it's just as a woman or as that same gender going through what they went through and trying to tell them someone that doesn't want to hear it. There's probably a little bit more huff and guff.
Yeah, I can see that definitely.
That may be more of that kind of communication where we're at the level of communication. To the younger one, it feels like you're being overbearing. To the older one, it's I can't stress enough how much I want this, to you to be aware of this.
Yeah.
And,
it goes back to that hindsight thing, man. It really does.
Yeah.
But yeah, so she did this thing, and it turns out the boy's mother was a lot more vigilant than we were.
Mm-hmm.
So she tracked his phone, looked through his conversations, and saw that it snuck out. And that's when she realized that her son was dating her former employee's daughter. And she called my ex-wife and was bitching at her about how dare your daughter be with my son, which is a juxtaposition that you wouldn't expect, and she forced her son to break up with my daughter, and it broke her little heart.
But I mean, if to be fair, I would say if it started with sneaking, it's not
a good thing. You're right.
It's probably better that it ended, that it was, kibosh, because it's just it seems cool and kind of, wild and
it's sexy and secret.
It's not sexy, but just romance, because romance. He's such a bad boy. We're gonna go see some. We're just gonna and it's just one of those things where it's not as great as it seems.
Well, I would argue that any relationship at the age of 13 probably isn't going to stand the test of time.
True. I mean, it's not the 1920s anymore, though.
Yeah, you can't just be forced to stay with someone forever.
But I mean, how did you feel as a parent, though, when you found out that was happening? And that you were just did you feel like you were kind of bamboozled or swindled?
I felt bamboozled. I was more upset about the lies than anything.
I mean,
that's
what I'm saying is you as somebody that was well, you could have just told me. Why did you feel like you needed to set up this elaborate, unless he knew from straight on, if the boy knew, my mom knows your mom, we can't let this out, we can't let this out of the bag. And
I've stressed her so many times that she could talk to me about anything, that I just want to make sure that she's safe above all else, and that she can count on me if she ever is to make I've let her know, if you ever have somebody, if you're ever on drugs, doing anything like that, and you don't feel safe and you need to get home, call me. You're not going to get in trouble. I just want to make sure that you're safe.
You'll get in trouble post recovery.
I'll talk to you.
Yeah.
But I honestly, she won't even get in trouble if she if she does reach out to me for that, because more than anything, I'm just going to be relieved that she's safe. Yeah.
But at the same time, you're going to.
I'm still going to be pissed.
Yeah.
But
But yeah, that's the hard thing about being a parent, is also
it's terrible, man.
Because
so
it's the training wheels of your kid's life start to come off, and they don't need you to hold the bike anymore. They're pedaling away.
There's a saying that I think about all the time, is having a parent, or having a child. It's like exposing a piece of your heart to the world, and just you got a little piece of your heart just walking around, vulnerable to everything, and you just have to watch it, and you just have to watch it make its own decisions. You just have to watch it make its own mistakes, and you really can't do anything about it. It's fucking the most stressful thing in the world, man.
Which leads right into our conversation here about fears, since you talk about heart and putting
I knew.
But you're like, but I mean, that's, go ahead and tell the listenership what your fear is.
All right. Yeah, my biggest fear after thinking about it, it's the fear of rejection.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And it being a dad, like it adds another layer to it, because it's like you don't get just rejected by the people you're interested in. Now you have someone like you said, a piece of your heart that could literally just say, "Don't talk to me anymore," and you just have to. It's out there walking around without any contact from you.
It's a little piece of me that's rejected me.
Yeah. So, do you remember like the first time like you really felt rejection?
Yeah, man, it's been a lifelong thing, really. By the way, I'm pretty sure I'm not the first person to have this fear of rejection on your podcast.
Anthony Fink was another. So you're but his came from like his sibling. Like he was real close with his sibling up until she got into school. Like she's an older sister.
Yeah.
And then she started to outgrow him, and so that was that was the root of his rejection. Was his older sibling started to reject hanging out with him, so he just felt like, because it is kind of a weird dynamic. I don't have siblings myself, so I can't say that, but I would think it's got to be weird to grow up with somebody and be so close at times, but at other times just completely just oblivious, or just
feel like this
not even wanting to, or angry that you're actually having to spend time. Like,
yeah, I love that guy, by the way.
Yeah.
Good guy. Yeah, mine comes from like as early as I can remember. I am a middle child, which explains a lot of things, really. And I'm the middle child between two sisters. I was raised by my mother. I didn't really have a father, so it's like the only boy in a house full of women. And I mean, right off the bat, I really didn't fit in.
Mm-hmm.
I was the black sheep, like growing up all my life, regardless of, how sensitive of a kid I was, how scared of a kid I was. Like, I still fucked up no matter what I did. My sisters, they would play together, and I was often left out of that.
Okay.
So yeah, rejection's been something very common in my life.
So has that come from like your traditional background of that, you're not allowed to all three play together, or is it just...
No, it just kind of worked out that way because I don't know how familiar you are with Hispanic cultures.
I'm not.
Usually the only boy is treated like a fucking prince.
Okay, well that part
like
I didn't know.
Prince.
Yeah, like you were the golden child.
I was not, though. It was the opposite for me. I felt like fucking Cinderella growing up, man.
Okay. Well,
I was given all the dirty chores too. Like I was
you were the man of the
scrubbing
house.
bathrooms for exactly. Taking out the trash, all the nasty stuff.
So have you ever like had a relationship with your dad? Like any kind of like even, or was it just all like maybe cordial?
He tried to connect with me when I turned 18, which I thought was kind of bullshit. After he wasn't obligated to pay child support or anything.
Okay, so like he was like the water boy. Like,
yeah, exactly. Just like stepped in when things were going good or whatever.
And that had to feel weird too, because it's like after like now.
Yeah, but I was curious. I wanted to get to know him, so we hung out.
Now, is he the dad of all of your siblings? He's
my older sister and my dad. My younger sister, technically my half sister, but I mean we grew up together, so she's my sister.
Close enough.
Yeah. So yeah, he stepped into my life around the time I was 18, and we hung out a few times for about 3 years before I decided I didn't want anything to do with him. He was just not. He was not a good guy to me. He was like he just kept trying to make excuses for what, why he wasn't in my life. He just kept talking about, oh, your mother, like, wouldn't let me do this or that. And I'm just thinking like, okay, but
neither me either.
Like you were still my dad. You could have fucking done something. You could have done something.
Yeah.
And then I think the nail on the head was like, he took me to Mexico to get some dental work done.
Mm-hmm.
And he basically scolded my entire lifestyle, like the whole time we were together. I had a gay friend that I introduced him to, and he went on this rant about how my gay friend was just trying to fuck me. And yeah, he was super religious as well. Yeah, so he's just like, he's not your real friend. He's just trying to fuck you. There were other things, but it was just like, I don't need this man in my life. He bought me a Wii, and that's probably the biggest thing that he did. I like basically guilted him into buying me a Wii, and I remember that being like one of the first instances of me guilt tripping, like actively manipulating somebody to do something for me.
So how much older is your sister than you?
She's 2 years.
Okay.
And then my younger sister's like a year and a half younger.
So did he try to reconnect with her as well? Or?
No.
Okay.
Yeah, they're sensitive subject.
Okay. I just didn't know if
No, it was just me. Yeah, and that was another thing too, is that like when my family found out that I was trying to reconnect with him, like shit went down. They were fucking pissed about it.
Yeah. Well, I can see I see both sides of that situation. I feel like they shouldn't hold it against you that, hey, I need to find out for myself who this is. I can't.
Yeah.
I empathize with how your experiences with him went, and I understand that you want to, in a way, protect me from those from also having those situations with him. But I also some of these things you have to let me make my own mistakes.
Yeah.
And if it is not meant to be, you can tell me I told you so or anything like that. But my cousin was in a similar situation. Mm-hmm. My cousin is also an only child, but he grew up with a dad that was a criminal, a drug addict, and his mom was too. And when she had my cousin, he's 7 years older than I am. She decided she needed to clean her life up, and so she was getting off drugs, and she got dentures and stuff so she could get employed, because she had like all the drugs had, I guess, ruined what teeth she had. And she moved back home. My grandmother said, you can live at my house for cheap rent, but you have to be clean.
Yeah.
You can't. And so my aunt did that, and my uncle did not. And he came with a shotgun and a motorcycle. He came on his motorcycle with a shotgun and went through the house to
on
try
his motorcycle.
No, just kind of. Like, he came in with a gun, and he grabbed him in the carrier.
Fuck.
And was like trying to take him out, and like they literally, she basically was like wasn't gonna let go, and he almost like dragged her down the street on a motorcycle.
Christ. This is like a scene out of Terminator T2, man.
And then fast forward to, I guess we'll say 1990, like my high school. I was maybe in high school, or maybe just out of high school. Fast forward to that is my cousin wants to meet his dad.
Yeah.
He's tracked him down, and my aunt is livid. Like, why would you I've told you what this guy fucking did to me.
Yeah.
Why would you want to fucking, it's like and she was very upset. She's like, I don't want him. You better not say a goddamn word about me whatsoever. And I was there just kind of, stuck in this. And I was like, I understand both sides. I was like, he can't, I understand the trauma you went through.
Mm-hmm.
I understand that your experience is bad, but he has to learn for himself if his dad is still the drug addicted piece of garbage that came in 1972 and tried to just basically kidnap his own child.
Yeah.
In a power move. Or maybe this guy's gotten off of drugs like you have and realizes, hey, this isn't, this was not my, I made mistakes, and just maybe, he doesn't, or, but you have to know. You want to know.
Yeah. And there's something to be said. I mean, it's going to sound fucked up. First of all, you're a very empathetic person, and that's like a little surprising because I'm not familiar with only like only childs that are usually like, well, that are able to do that, that are able to step outside. Yeah. But like, secondly, there has to be something to be said about a man who is willing to do like a last ditch effort, regardless of the situation he's in. Like, he at least obviously cares for his child, even if he expressed it in a terrible, horrible way.
But he never tried again. Like, he never came back. He never once like contacted his son to say, hey.
Oh, okay, never mind. Then I got a piece of shit.
Like, it's just, I mean, and maybe he just, like, it was one of those things where you don't know. Like, if say you left on some, maybe not that extreme of terms, but if you left on some horrible terms, do you wonder if, like, say you and your ex didn't work it out and she didn't want you to see your daughter, would you be afraid to see your daughter because at that point perhaps her mom has told her all these horrible things and given her a horrible image of you that you can never maybe undo? That would be my big fear. That's why I'm always a proponent of, hey, no matter what it is, work together.
Yeah.
Work as a team. I know it can be trying, and it's not for everybody. Some people, but just the people that, it's just because I could see the fear of also like, hey, this woman has probably brainwashed my son to never want to speak to me.
Mm-hmm.
And so at some point, you might want to, you want to learn where you come from. And it may not be a great, moment and stuff. And that, again, that's the fear of rejection of, like, what if I'm rejecting somebody because you're afraid of it? What if I'm rejecting my dad when he's genuinely wanting to make a connection with me?
Mm-hmm.
And the cards, it didn't work out, but you still handle the fear of, hey, this is who I am.
Yeah. This
is who your son grew up to be.
I honestly, I was terrified that he would reject me as well, because I already knew at that point. I knew from an early age that I wasn't like a man's man. I knew that, like, other people let me know that very early on. I'm just not a fucking...
Yeah.
I'm not a tough guy. I don't, like, exude...
Yeah. If you're bullied a lot, like, I feel like to me, that's why I find self-deprecating funny.
Yeah.
Because I was bullied and made fun of so much that I don't ever realize when I win. That's one of the things I realized when I was, like, as far as being bullied, is like, because I used to do all self-deprecating when I started, and it got paid to the point where it was uncomfortable, because it would just be so raw and like just mean about me. Like, I would just be mean about myself, and people would question my mental health because it's just. But it's what I found funny, is because I had just been made fun of the whole time, that I've been almost feel like I was conditioned to appreciate when I'm being made fun of.
Yeah.
It may have been my coping mechanism to kind of...
It's a coping mechanism, definitely. I was talking to Mike Tribby recently, and he dealt with bullying as well. And yeah, I know. Mike's a fucking great guy. Shout out Mike. But he brought up a good point, that all the teasing leads to, like, insane levels of self-awareness that other people just don't have. And like, it's almost like you already know what you know everything that's wrong with you. You have to know everything that's wrong with you, so nobody else can fucking beat you to the punch. And also, like, you go to great efforts to, like, like I've said a few times, you dress really nice. And I try to do the same. I try to look nice, and I feel like people that are a little more aware of who they are, like, they'll make a little bit of extra effort.
Okay.
They don't have the confidence to walk around looking like a piece of shit.
But the hard part, as far as for stand-up, is you'll have to win.
Yeah.
I'll tell you that advice right now, as somebody that's done self-deprecating, is you're going to have to find a way to win some situations that maybe you're used to just like, oh, that's, I'll never... Sometimes you got to end up with the girl. Sometimes you've got to win.
Yeah. And
I would say my first joke is one of my closers, is one where I really win, which was the role play. My role play bit my punchline is she wanted to be a role play and pretend to be her ex, and so I did, and I left her. And but it's like it was my first example of I win.
Yeah.
And it used to be like my closer, like it used to be the end of the show closer, but then I wrote GPS, and like you'll write things that'll just eventually become your closer, and your closer gets shoved up. But that used to be one of my end all closer.
That's a good one. I like that.
And it's what I make my t-shirt off of.
Yeah.
But it's the first joke that I wrote where it's like, okay, how can I win this situation? And how can I win it in a way that no one is going to guess? And Ian Mack is now checking on us like a mom.
Yeah. So many people just coming in and a bunch of nosy Nancys. What's up?
Why are you
Ian?
walking like a velociraptor? Like no one's in here. Dude. Like we can see you.
He looks like a cartoon robber. Oh, okay.
Okay.
Is John here? Not yet. Let me text him.
For someone that would be here at 9:30, it's kind of close to 10 o'clock.
Ian, John just texted me he can't make it. Will you fill in?
All right. Well, our episode of Foolish House will be even more foolish as Ian Mack will be the guest host.
We had him as a guest host 2 episodes ago, and he was great. I have full faith, and you know what? We're gonna shit on Jon Berry the whole time. It's gonna be fucking hilarious.
I don't know about that, but we'll make it work.
Yeah.
Back to rejection here. So how do you feel like, how do you kind of, I guess, cope with it now as an adult? Since now that you're an adult and you have a kid,
Yeah.
how do you, like, have you learned to cope with it as a way to kind of guide her? Is that kind of motivated
that's been a huge motivation for my mental health. And I know, like, it's not the best. I have done a lot of therapy. I've done a lot of things to help myself just get to a better place in life, because I don't just want to feel like I'm going through the motions, not just with my comedy, but just with life, like I want to feel like I have something to live for. So especially like wanting to be a good example for my daughter, especially because I do like see the same like patterns in her, because unfortunately like mental health, like these issues are usually a hereditary thing.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to give her the tools to learn to deal with them, so she doesn't ever get to the places that I got to when I was a kid.
Mm-hmm.
So I do a lot of different things. Just learning to meditate was a humongous thing for me. Cognitive behavior therapy was huge for me as well, like journaling my behavior patterns, finding out why I do the shit that I do. That has been massive.
Does she journal?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that's cool.
I've encouraged her to journal since she was a little kid.
Okay.
Really seriously, having a kid kind of catapulted me into being a better person.
Mm-hmm.
Before I had my daughter, I was planning on fucking killing myself before I turned 30. Like I did not, like, that was it. I didn't have plans to graduate.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't have plans to like get a good job, live in a nice house, and have a pretty wife. I just wanted to fucking have my fun and die.
Mm-hmm. That's how my grandfather said. He always told me to live fast and die young.
Yeah, that's all I wanted to do, man. Like, I just, like, life didn't interest me. I didn't want anything to do with it more than I had to.
So how has that perspective changed as a dad? Like, have you gone back on things that you would basically young Hugo would be like, fuck that? Like,
yeah, absolutely, man.
What would be an example of that? What would be an example of something that young Hugo would have been like, fuck that you're like, all right, let's go?
Okay, well, it's getting a little hardcore here, but as a kid, I was pretty hardcore. I got super into like punk rock and just like the scene in general, and the deeper you dive into that thing, the more like hard drugs are involved. So I did have a meth addiction for years, and I actually started it to like lose weight initially, which it worked. So you listeners out there, if you really just not feeling
that's
good about
right.
your weight,
We didn't touch on your past of how you were also
300 pounds.
okay. Wow, you're like kind of like the Jared from Subway, but in a way more reckless.
Yeah. And I don't diddle children.
Yeah.
Let me be honest about that. Yeah.
True. You didn't.
Scouts honor.
But yeah, like that's another thing that also probably made you super sensitive and hyper aware was the fact that everybody pointed out, hey, you're fat.
Yeah. Yeah. The rejection from being fat, like honestly, people treated me so much different once I lost weight. It was insane to me.
Yeah. Like how many, but I mean, you can also see the rejection without them having to say a word when you're fat, because you could see the eyes immediately panically dart, like they don't know how to look at you like a human being, like they have to,
I don't know if you've heard my awful titty cancer joke that I rarely tell now, even though it's one of my favorites. But the whole thing about it is like, I talk about how I was 300 pounds walking down the hall one day. This girl I have a huge crush on, she just shouts out at me, "Damn, Hugo, you got bigger titties than I do." That happened. That was a thing. And I still remember it clearly because it fucking crushed me. Yeah. It destroyed me. I fucking was in love with this girl, and for her to just like
to be publicly humiliated by someone
a fucking gesture, like, how dare you even think about the possibility?
Been there. I've been publicly humiliated in front of people that I've like literally was like, had interest in. And so that's kind of why I have like this whole like self-defense web that just keeps me in this flatline middle area of not getting too high or getting too low, just because I was so tortured, and because of that torture, I was so terrified to try and make a connection with people, because I would be so afraid of just that public humiliation factor and just going back to it. And now it's like I don't know. I think because I've done that, I've missed out on the ability to, I would say, be more than I can be. Like I don't know how to, like, I don't know of levels in a relationship. I'm just this all the time.
Yeah.
And it's like my love is, just is tertiary, like, seeing things that maybe you need, purchasing, words of affirmation. I do all 5 love languages, but they're not, I would say they're not done with a passion, like a fiery romantic.
So it doesn't sound like, is it not like a genuine thing, or it is genuine?
It's genuine, but it doesn't feel that way. It feels like like going through the motions.
Yeah.
But it's like it's almost like I'm pre-romanticizing by getting you this or telling you how great you are. I'm not pulling you in, throwing you on the bed, ripping your clothes off. And some people, and sometimes people want that passion, and I have to learn to be more intentional. I can't just let it ride.
It's hard though, man. It really is.
Yeah. But I would do it all again in a heartbeat. I have no regrets. It's not like I'm not one of these people like younger me. Like without comedy, I feel like comedy has also been super helpful, because I think I would have, either turned to alcohol or something to say, okay, it's my fault, I did this, and I would just basically, drink the, the failings away and just end up alone. Mm-hmm. And so I'm happy that I found stand up for that. And so like it's helped me kind of understand and from a comics writing perspective, kind of break down, okay, so this is what happened. This is why this is not working. And rather than you're just a monster, hey, maybe next time you're not just completely, on comedy the whole time. And, granted that, yes, I could have been told, I wish I would have been told differently or realized that me doing this and not doing it with the other person, like going to open mics and spending, time when we could, that I chose to do the same open mics I normally do. And to think, okay, well, you're doing those because they're closer to you, and not picking up on the cues of, hey, I'd like to spend time with you, and if it has to be to get you at open mic, then these are the open mics I'm doing. Why can't you come to me? and just in not realizing it. So I've, next go around, I will be more intentional. I'll be more like, hey, you want to do this together? Want to do that together? And, and be intentional from the start.
Yeah, I just take every relationship as like a learning experience, like I try not to regret things. I've been married twice, which is something I have to explain to people when we start dating seriously. And it's I don't know, people, have preconceived notions of who you are before they even talk to you. And it makes it a little hard to, be open with people when they already, think you're this guy. And I don't know. Where was I going with this? I was going somewhere.
You were just talking about basically no regrets. And, just basically you've been married twice, and that how you're explaining that to, I guess, a new person.
Yeah.
And I guess it's a way to kind of make, because I feel like that to them, they feel like, oh, then you obviously don't take it seriously, or there's another shoe I'm missing that's about to drop that I'm going to, that we're going to get married and it's going to be the third. And
yeah. There's actually here, one of my superpowers to me is that I am comfortable with oversharing. I don't mind people knowing about the dirty details of my life. I feel like if people are going to judge me for it, then that's their problem. Okay. Because I know what really transpired, and I know that I am trying to be the best person that I can be. So why I was divorced twice. I told you about the first ex-wife. Okay. We met a few weeks in and got pregnant. And we wanted to make it work. I wanted to be there for my kid.
And create the uterus.
We were just so crazy opposite from each other. She was like, I don't know if you're familiar with Aledo, Texas. Super rich little town west of Fort Worth.
Well, college is paid for.
Dude, the fucking prom, they have kids flying in helicopters. Yeah. Yeah. And I'm... so yeah, I marry this like blonde-haired, blue-eyed girl who just, our lifestyles couldn't be any more opposite, and it obviously wasn't going to work, and it didn't work, but we tried. Yeah. And then shortly after that, I got back together with my high school sweetheart, who we dated for a few years in high school. She was the first love of my life. Okay. And things were great for about like 4 years. We were together for 4 years. We got married about 3 years in. And then I found out that she was cheating on me like an excessive amount. I would say an excessive amount, a little too much. A little too much cheating. So I really had no choice in that matter. It really broke my heart. And it led, it just added to the rejection thing, to that fear of rejection.
So was it like, do you feel like she just got married, that was kind of a maybe that like both of you were like Lonely Hearts Club kind of a second, were both of you on a rebound when that?
No. No. She very attractive person. She didn't have to worry about dating anybody. But we just honestly to this day, like, we had a very strong connection. We loved each other fiercely, but sadly she had a very fucked up childhood from the start, like one of the worst childhoods I ever heard of. So she just was a broken person from childhood. So like her being in a relationship that she didn't,
confining.
Yeah, she was always gonna look for an outward. She was always going to look for validation from other places, other sources. And she had a serious drug problem as well, which she kept well hidden.
And it's heartbreaking. And I hopefully that she is, at some point, either if she hasn't already gets, finds her ability to balance out. And,
yeah, I hope that too.
But yeah, and do you have you always overshared? Do you feel like that's also caused your rejection? Is because
Yeah.
you'll overshare and then people will just completely just laugh at you? Or...
Yeah. But I feel like the right people in my life will be open to, like, the right people will, they'll accept it, And I really can't help it. What am I gonna do? What can I do? I've always been like this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, how is your relationship with your sisters now that you're an adult, or do you have?
Yeah, we're still very close.
Okay.
My older sister and my mom, like my older sister has been housing my mom forever. It's kind of like a Hispanic thing as well. And then my little sister, they live very close together. They live a few blocks apart. And
is that why you is it kind of how you're comfortable living blocks away from your ex and your daughter?
guess so, maybe.
Like,
I never
maybe
thought
it's
of
like
it.
subliminally, like this is how it should be.
Well, I don't know. At the same time, like I'm kind of excited for my daughter graduating because I want to be nomad. Like I want to be a nomad. I want to fucking like live in a van. Like I want to go back to my punk rock roots and not fucking care about,
Who is your punk band of choice? Like who is your...
God damn, it's gonna be cliche, but Dead Kennedys.
Okay.
I love the Dead Kennedys. I just thought they were like fucking hilarious and like extremely amazing, like good musicians.
Yeah. But it's still a good show. Like they're a showman as well. Like NoFX is also one that I
fucking love NoFX, man. One of my best shows, one of the best things that I ever witnessed was Warped Tour. I don't remember the year, probably like 2006 or something. NoFX was one of the headliners at Warped Tour, and then it starts raining, starts thundering, and Fat Mike's like, yeah, guys, we're being told we can only play one more song, so here's one more song for you guys. And then they go into The Decline, an 18-minute song, and I just fucking remember screaming like my heart out, just like so fucking happy.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry.
That's awesome. Well, it seems like a great place to end it. Where can people find you on social media, Hugo, if they want to check out your comedy?
You can find me on Instagram at Hugonzo42, Hugonzo 42.
All right.
Yeah.
Is that it? No YouTube? No
listen
clips?
to Foolish House, wherever podcasts are available. YouTube, I don't know, Hugogrios. Type that in to your Google, hit enter, and you're going to find me somewhere.
All right. Well, thanks again, Hugo.
Thank you, man. This was great. This is a fucking treat.
So that was Hugo. That was a real fun conversation. It's real interesting dynamic, and I've seen amazing, that Hugo is, becoming the dad that he never had, and how he's really, passionate about helping his teenage daughter and guiding her and being a dad and being there. Like, just being there is such a showing up, as Dan Fail from episode 34 said in his episode. Hugo shows up. He still does comedy. Check him out at Hugonzo24. I'll have the links to his Instagram and show notes. Also, check out his podcast, Foolish House, which we recorded shortly after this episode, where we kind of did mine first because his co-host wasn't there at the time and eventually just couldn't make it to the recording. So we recorded with Ian Mack and Hugo and myself. We did Foolish House after the show. It was a fun time. I had a great time. Thanks again to Smokestack 1948 for allowing us access to the cocktail lounge. It was a really awesome recording setup. We recorded inside there. We had comfy seating, and it's a great podcast venue idea. It's like if you wanted to, I guess, hang out and do the comedy open mic and maybe then run a podcast while the open mic was going on, it would be an ideal location. Again, thanks to them. That was really generous of them. They didn't have to do that or accommodate us in any way, but they did. Thanks again to Hugo for the episode. And Foolish House, will have the links to the podcast in the show notes. It is like Hugo is absurdist comedy. Foolish House is basically an absurdist comedy podcast. It's a real interesting and out of my comfort zone experiences. You'll probably hear on his episode of how off guard I was taken by the whole thing. It was really, really fun and really just stretching your comfort zone. It's what you got to do in life sometimes. As for myself, I worked at Backdoor, just kind of made everything run. Thanks again to all the comics that showed up at Backdoor. You guys were amazing. And then next week, I will be at Plano House of Comedy with Drew Dunn. So check out House of Comedy TX if you're in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. I will be in the North Plano, Dallas area featuring for Drew Dunn. Thanks again for listening to the Some of All Fears podcast. I still, can't believe we made 100 episodes, and we're now at 102 with the biopic that I made last week, because we had just people that unfortunately, due to their life situation, just couldn't make the podcast, and had another person just, after understanding the format, just not feel comfortable, and that's totally fine. So I appreciate you guys for listening and leaving reviews, and if you like what you hear, please leave a review. It helps with the visibility of the show. If you have any suggestions for the show, or you'd like to be a guest, email me at somefearfans@gmail.com. We'd love to have you on. Thanks again for listening to the Some of All Fears podcast. I can't believe we're already almost into August here in the year 2022. But thanks again for listening to the Some of All Fears podcast. Have a wonderful week. And now some thank yous for the folks that make this show possible. Thanks to Barry Whitewater for my art and graphics. You can follow him on Instagram at bwhiteh2o. Get it? H2O like water. You can also follow him on Facebook, Music. A huge thank you to Gunnar Olsen for the wonderful music provided for this podcast. You can follow him on Instagram at gunbuns, that's GUNBUNS, as well as his website, gunnarolsen.net. Check out some of the samples that he has recorded. They're amazing. He's an amazing percussionist. If you want to follow the show, we've got a Facebook group, Some of All Fears. Instagram, Twitter, you can find us at Some Fear Fans. If you have some feedback for the show, email me at somefearfans, SOMEFEARFANS @gmail.com. I'll be happy to take those into consideration. Also, if you'd like to be a guest, email me at somefearfans@gmail.com. We can try to iron out some details and get that settled in. Give us some feedback on Apple, Google, Spotify, or wherever you listen to podcasts. Leave a review. It makes the show bigger, and it's not going anywhere. I'm going to record as many shows as I possibly can. If you want to follow me on social media, I am at Ryan Perio. It's RyanPerio on all social media platforms. You can follow me there, and you can check me out at ryanperio.com, my website. I'll try to list upcoming shows there as well. It's been kind of spotty because as soon as I set it up, that's when the pandemic happened, and everything's kind of just in a holding pattern. Thanks again for listening to the Some of All Fears podcast. Next week, we'll have another guest with another fear. Thanks for listening.